Hello, everybody. You are listening to TALRadio, the information and entertainment arm of the Touch a Life Foundation. On TALRadio, the Touch a Life Foundation shares stories of kindness and information on how we can help to connect those people around the world who might be in need of assistance with parties who are generous enough to offer it. I'm Robert Hicks. I'm glad you could join us today on the Robert Hicks Show. And here today, we have Marisa Aurora Quiroz. She's the president and CEO of the International Community Foundation. Marisa, thanks for joining us here on TALRadio today.
Hello, Robert. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
It's great to meet you. So as I understand it, the International Community Foundation is a foundation for U.S. donors. I took a look at your website, got some information about you. And for U.S. donors who are passionate about protecting the environment and improving the quality of life in Baja California and Latin America. Is that correct?
We are working in 15 countries right now, Robert. And of the 15 countries we work in, the majority of the nonprofits we support are in Mexico. Okay,
very good. And it's very interesting. I was reading a bit about your background. You've been with ICF for since about 2015. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm coming up on 8 years here.
Yeah. And I noticed that you kind of worked your way up through the organization, right?
I saw you as yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have had several positions. Yes. So I know a few things now. I think, it helps me in my position now so much to have done all of those jobs.
That's great. And your credentials, you have a master's in nonprofit leadership and management from the University of San Diego and a bachelor's degree in anthropology and sociology from Mills College. And you also, interestingly enough, in 2017, I see you were one of 33 Hispanic leaders in philanthropy that was awarded the 2017 HIP Giver Award by the national organization Hispanics in Philanthropy. Congratulations on that.
Thanks.
Well, it's certainly our pleasure to get a chance to sit and chat with you for a little bit today. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about what the International Community Foundation is? What's it all about beyond what I said?
Sure. Well, thank you. ICF has been around for more than 30 years. Our home base is in San Diego County. We are a national city, and we share a beautiful property with an organization called Olive Wood Garden and Learning Center that we actually incubated. They're a very important anchor institution when it comes to connection to food sources and connecting families to healthy, nutritious food. They're in National City, so I highly recommend it. Shout out to Olive Wood Garden and Learning Center, to everyone on this line. The International Community Foundation acts as a community foundation in that we build social capital, we support community leadership, and we make grants. And so we are supporting over 300 nonprofits that are working internationally on various projects that are supporting families in place, projects that are supporting environmental conservation and job creation, economic sustainability. We are supporting programs in health. Essentially, we have the functions of a community foundation, except for that we work across borders, and supporting local leadership is really important to us.
Very neat. So what would you say is the primary mission? If you were going to kind of encapsulate it, how would you describe the primary mission of ICF?
I would say that ICF is an organization that supports international grant making. We have expertise in Latin America and in Mexico. And so we are generalists in that we can provide technical support, and we are specialists in that we can really help individual, family, corporate grant making and tailor grant making services to the needs of those entities. So I would say ICF is a fantastic partner. We bring a network of relationships to the table that can really support grant making internationally.
Now, I'm sorry that I'm unfamiliar, but what does grant making mean for our listeners? Let's just assume there might be some listeners that aren't as expert in it as I am.
Sure,
How
sure.
would you
I mean, I
explain that?
had to learn it too. Well, the history of community foundations goes far back. It's part of the fabric of America and the United States. At first, banks held community foundations, and so community foundations were set up to support community, and donations were given to community. So those donations of supporting community projects, supporting local families, supporting local leaders that are running organizations that provide direct services, that is part of those are the organizations that we support. And so grant making is what we call getting those resources from people who want to give them to people who are receiving them. It's similar to how other foundations work.
Very interesting. And that's what TALRadio is all about, or I should say the Touch a Life Foundation that actually created TALRadio. It's all about the very same thing, aligning people that are generous enough to help out with people that have needs. And so certainly appreciate hearing your story here today. So how many countries did you say? Did you say like 30 countries now?
Right now, we're tracking charitable laws and complying with all of the standards of our field's best practices in 15 countries. So my team works very
15.
hard. We're a small team of 13, so I appreciate them so much.
Okay, that's 13 people in your organization?
That's correct.
Okay. And was there something that triggered the creation of the ICF? I mean, was it an individual's desire to help their community or their relatives, something like that in the past?
Yes, I would say it was a community effort. We were born out of the San Diego Foundation, and I actually worked at the San Diego Foundation for almost 8 years as well. And so
I saw that.
Yes, no, our regional foundation is strong and supports so many nonprofits locally. So ICF was born out of the San Diego Foundation, out of a desire for donors to give beyond the county. Community foundations traditionally, as they have been set up, are just have county lines, have borders. And so ICF is a little bit of an outlier in that our structure is like a community foundation, but we are working in 15 countries. We do cross borders and understand the interconnectivity of climate change, of coastal conservation that stretches across larger land masses. But yes.
I saw that there's a kind of the beginnings, at least, of a list of some of the organizations or the groups that are helping. What is the Border Fund? What is that about?
Sure. So the Border Fund began out of a desire to support complementary work on both sides of the border. So we know, for example, how important infrastructure is when it comes to solid waste management, when it comes to sediment management. We know that relationships and being able to work and truly collaborate matters to people living in our region. So the Border Fund was kind of a fund that was set up for general pooling of funds to go to different projects. So thinking about, policies on both sides of the border that would benefit communities, and thinking about the groups that were supporting job and economic creation towards some of those goals. So that the Border Fund has supported many, many projects like that. It's also supported people who are in desperate situations in our border region. As our leaders have been supporting people who have been arriving on their doorstep, that is an area that we see must be supported. And we absolutely stand by the leaders who are working in the shelters and doing triage in our region to support kids who need food tonight.
And I saw some other initiatives, certainly the border one. I can just imagine how kind of overwhelming that must be at times during these recent times. But I saw the Central America Grants Fund. You got Baja California Waterkeepers Fund. What is that?
Yeah, the Waterkeeper Fund is so great. So the Waterkeeper Alliance is actually a U.S. organization. They work out of New York primarily, but they have offices in other places, and they're supporting a network of waterkeepers. we have opened a fund to uniquely support the Baja waterkeepers. There are 10, traditionally there are 10, when all of them are filled, there are 10 waterkeepers along the peninsula. And these waterkeepers are looking out to make sure that the waters are clean. They're testing the waters. They're posting the information on apps like Swim Guide so that local communities know when it's safe to swim, know when it's safe to take their families to the beach. This information is super important and is an added value. That's like one of the nimbleness of nonprofits. When it takes government longer to be able to, of course, they've got a lot to do. It's going to take them a lot longer time to post live information. Waterkeepers in their regions, and they're all over the world again, are posting that information in a way that's way more accessible. So they are very important to our communities, and that fund supports the 10 waterkeepers in Baja.
Very interesting, and I've not heard of waterkeepers before, so I learned something new today. But anyway, just wanted to touch on those parts of your mission, just to kind of give some examples. So, what does the International Community Foundation? Who do you target for participation in what you're doing?
Yes, we bring, one of our responsibilities as the community foundation is to build that social capital, to be able to leverage our networks to make connections, right? Because our funding is a small fraction of the need. And so we know that in addition to financial resources, capacity building is super important. We know that connection to other leaders, right? Peer networks are really important. We know that creative partnerships across a bunch of different sectors is very important. So the social network, it kind of attracts people who are wanting to be in practice with us. And they come to us because they want to open a family fund and they want our grant making infrastructure to support the recommendations from their families. So we're working to create individual plans for families and donors. We hold funds that way. We're also working with larger affiliations, right? So right now, ICF is holding some funds for management of a network, a support to the Raise the River Coalition along the Colorado River Delta. And this is a trans-border river system, a cuenca. And ICF has been supporting technically some of these groups. So I guess we can scale from supporting individuals to supporting families to supporting alliances and to supporting businesses in our region that really want to focus on their handprint and doing some grant making together as a way to retain staff. I'm brainstorming the different ways that people come to us. With that, I would say that there are donors on both sides. There are funders on both sides of the border that are incredibly generous. And ICF is very much a binational entity in that we are working with a binational network of people who want to do this work with us.
By the way, I want to remind our listeners that you're listening to TALRadio, and TALRadio is a service provided by the Touch a Life Foundation. And I like to explain when we're having our show that the Touch a Life Foundation is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization that's founded on the principle that helping others is good for society. We leverage technology to connect those persons or organizations that might be in need with those generous people that might be willing to give. And TALRadio is essentially the information and entertainment arm of Touch a Life Foundation. And today we are chatting with Marisa Aurora Quiroz, the president and CEO of the International Community Foundation. And I did want to point out to our listeners again that the Touch a Life Foundation also has an app. This is a cell phone or mobile device app that you can get. If you go to the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, you can download the TALGiving app, which is TAL Giving. TALGiving app is a platform to help organizations like the International Community Foundation and so many others. And so we certainly want to encourage our listeners to do exactly that. Now, do you consider the ICF as a standalone organization itself, or are you part of any larger group?
No, we are our own organization, and we do share property again, as I gave the shout out earlier in this interview to Olive Garden and Learning Center. We have a shared history on that property. It's a beautiful place. I highly recommend checking out their website. They have a bunch of cooking classes, and they offer other kinds of programs for the community to get involved in.
Very good. I wanted to make sure our listeners have an idea of where the International Community Foundation can be located. So I know that you're based, like you said earlier, in National City, California, which is the south side of San Diego, right?
Yes, I mean we are in National City, and
yep.
Yes, and you can check out our website. It's icfdn.org to get more information on how to contact us.
Yeah, ICF, like International Community Foundation, DN, like David Nancy. What's that DN stand for? I have to ask.
Foundation, FDN. It's just abbreviated.
Oh, okay, abbreviated. Okay, I should have picked up on that. So what are some of the accomplishments that your organization has kind of had in its journey? I know that, I was reading where within the first year of establishment, ICF had raised over $123,000, and that number is very different today, isn't it?
Yes, last year we were able to grant 12.5 million. So right now, as a team of 13, we are granting about $1 million a month. It's wow. An extraordinary amount of work, because we also build assets, and so we don't have a huge established endowment. We also work to make those connections, and that is our job as ICF. My team is stellar. They are super passionate and heart powered. And that 12.5 million went to 300 organizations in the 15 countries. Oh. And so it goes to show you, right? You're following all of the due diligence practices, all of the charitable laws. You have to be experts, and the laws change all the time. Sometimes we have complicated things that we have to figure out. That is why people come to work or to work with ICF.
So are those 15 countries, are they like U.S. and Central America focused, or South America? What is the global scope?
The U.S. is yes. We also have the ability to grant. We are a U.S. nonprofit, which is we're established here. We aren't established. We don't have a nonprofit anywhere else. We are a U.S. nonprofit, and so we also have a history of other accomplishments too. I just returned from an incredible place called Laguna San Ignacio. It's on the Pacific side of Baja. And if you were to drive from San Diego, it would take you about 13 hours to arrive. But it's where the gray whales go to have their babies. And so 3 months out of the year, it's seasonal. The mothers and their calves are in the lagoon. And as part of a conservation effort that started more than 20 years ago, that ICF is a part of, that lagoon has been, for the most part, conserved. It's not 100% conserved, but the primary areas where the whales are is conserved. And this is an incredible Mexican story. Gray whales are born there. And with a little bit of help from friends internationally, we were able to successfully conserve the lagoon. And so there's ecotourism businesses that are now part of an agreement to care for the lagoon. And you can go out on a panga, and the whales, you're not chasing the whales come up to you, and you can reach out. It's the most incredible experience, and I highly recommend it. But that is a really great example of a success, a huge achievement that happened 20 years ago. And because our team is able to work in international networks that are building social capital and building assets and grant making, it really allows us to serve as a partner in some of these projects that are doing globally important work.
That sounds really moving, I'm sure. That sounds really neat. So when it comes to putting together your organization with people that might be willing to help you out, what ways can our listeners help out the International Community Foundation? Is that limited strictly to donation and funding, or are there other things that we can do?
Yes, I mean, certainly resources, financial resources are helpful. I mean, if there's something that I've said that piques your interest or inspires you, please, reach out. We have a website that allows you to search for all of our projects. We have something called a giving guide that has brief descriptions of the nonprofits we're supporting. Everything is public information. And so you can really use the knowledge that my team has to be able to find organizations that inspire you. I mean, everything from, conserving the red-legged tree frog to supporting air quality in big cities for kids who have schools next to smokestacks. There's such a variety of things. I have no doubt that your listeners, would have no trouble going onto the website and looking at the organizations and finding something that they think might be really cool. Maybe they took a trip, maybe they went to Costa Rica and had an incredible experience in nature and want to be part of supporting people in place to have jobs protecting that place. I mean, these are exciting things that people who are generous and who want to give can get involved with. So I appreciate your time, Robert, so much. And thank you to all of the listeners. I look forward to connecting again.
Yeah, and the that website, by the way, again, is ICFDN, International Community Foundation, ICFDN.org. And I noticed when I went to the website, there were so many ways that you have that persons can donate, contribute to your organization. And you got every donation possibility the world can offer, whether it's online,
technology,
by text, by phone. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you can transfer stock, the cryptocurrencies, wire transfer, things like that. But also people can think of things like giving in honor of someone, doing a donation in memoriam to someone. Consider thinking, if you will, to our listeners, I'm saying this at least, consider thinking about employer matching gifts. If you want to be a contributor, think about asking your employer if they offer an opportunity to potentially match the gift, because a lot of organizations do. We've got vehicles that are available, like donating while shopping on Amazon Smile and eBay and programs like that. You can donate your car. So it's like, and just as Marisa said, just on the website, you can see all of these various vehicles that you can help to become a part of the mission that is the International Community Foundation. Marisa, in every interview that I have like this, I always like to ask the person that I'm talking to, there's what you are doing for other people. What does this experience and what you do, what does that do for you in your heart? Tell that story, if you would, a bit, what it feels like to be you and on this mission.
Oh, Robert, that is a really beautiful question, right? Because it kind of gets you outside of your role and it speaks to what calls you to this purpose. And I am definitely called to this purpose for powerful reasons. My husband passed away in September. He and I did environment work together. We traveled as a family together. We have 2 beautiful children. And this is the work, this is our life's work. We decided quite early on in the beginning of our love that we would ensure a better place for our kids, and that we would dedicate our life's career paths to environment, supporting people, supporting community. And so I think that this is, being at ICF, it's an interesting time. The year that I became a CEO is the year that he passed. And it's a very personal, it's a very personal story. I know I'm not, I don't mean to insert that into this interview, but you asked the question, and I think
it's beautiful. It's beautiful to hear. It really is.
What has been so powerful for me, and feeling now on my best days, I feel my husband's strength and courage, because he was a legend of a man. I know that ICF is bigger than me. My team, what we're doing is bigger than me. Our role is really, we're not providing direct services. We are supporting the people who do that. And there's a role for ICF. And I'm just so incredibly grateful and passionate about my team because I see how hard they work. I see how incredibly talented and smart, and I see how their lived experience helps inform so much, and how valuable that is. I know at work it's like, no, separate that, but we actually really value the people's ability to bring their own relationships to the work. And I mean that by networks, right? People they went to college with, people they went to school with, people they may have worked for before. I feel like all of these relationships help us do our work better. And so this past year and in my grieving process, I really have been grateful for such a unique opportunity at such a strange time. I'm at the helm of ICF. I feel honored to be a leader among leaders, and I'm going to do the best I can as long as I'm in this position.
Marisa, as I mentioned, and by the way, I have to say I'm very sorry to hear about your husband's passing. I asked that question for a couple of reasons. So many of us have jobs every day that we do, and a lot of times we're looking for the bigger picture. What difference am I making? And a lot of times people in your line of work, they have great stories about how your work is filling your heart. Now, I had not expected to witness someone's heart filled as much as yours. I have to tell you, that's quite a story that you just shared, and I greatly appreciate that you did. But, one of the things I like to do is I like to tie it together to our audience and say, the feeling that Marisa and others like her are getting from this kind of work, you too, in other lines of work, other parts of the world, can get a piece of that feeling in your heart too by helping these organizations on their mission. And that's really what TALGiving, Touch a Life, and TALRadio are all about. It's like we say, the Touch a Life Foundation is to connect people that are generous to people and organizations that have needs. And I do, again, hope you'll go to the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, get the TALGiving app, and keep listening to TALRadio because we like to share stories like this. And again, if you'll go to the ICFDN.org website, International Community Foundation, it's your opportunity to join with them in their mission. And it's so great to hear about the work you're doing and what it does for you personally. I really appreciate you sharing that, Marisa.
Thank you, Robert. And thank you to all of your listeners.
Yeah, thanks so much. We want to thank Marisa Aurora Quiroz, the president and CEO of the International Community Foundation, for being on the Robert Hicks Show today. It's a great chance to hear their story, and it always fills my heart to have these conversations. And I hope we'll keep in touch with you over time to see maybe we can help you even further in the future. That's it for our show today. Keep listening to TALRadio. I'm Robert Hicks. We thank you, our listeners, for spending time with us today, and also for your generous nature in both following us and supporting our objectives. Stay with us here on TALRadio for additional uplifting stories.